3BC.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 3BC, empowered by the Kudzukian Network. This is your girl, Joy, the cultural liturgist of this cultural conversation. And today, we have a very important topic today. We've been talking around it a little bit, but now we're talking about summertime, but not Will Smith. All right, so it's particular to us ladies of a certain age. As you know, this podcast is all about Gen X. And as Gen X ladies, we are a little warm right now, which my doctor calls private summers. Actually, she calls it private summers. So we want to touch on private summers. And I have my favorite doc and my soror, Dr. Angela Watson, with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Hey. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
And she's we can hear you. Okay, and she's a real talk doc. That's why she's my doctor. I can appreciate it. I'm going to give y'all a quick aside to how real she is, and I'm going to bring my girls in. I went in there one time. I was like, listen, I need to talk to you about something before I talk to my other doctor. She's like my general doctor, and I have an OBGYN too. And I was like, before I talk to her, I need to give you the unsanitized version. And I was like, listen, I just got my back blew out. And this is what happened. And she was like, oh, good. I was like, I love her. I was like, is this normal? Has it just been that long? What is happening? And so she gave me the real talk answer before I had a more sanitized conversation with my OBGYN. I was like, I love her. So we had that. I can appreciate and respect that. Thank you. And now kicking it to my girls, bringing in my 3BCs, one solo, KT, the Alchemist, and Chloe. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, lady.
Let's get into this private summers. Should we ask a question, or do we want to just jump in? Do we have comments?
Tell us why. What had happened? Why it happened?
Yeah. What had happened was, that unfortunately, but fortunately, depending on how you look at that, this is a natural part of life, and that one day we will all hit menopause. But where we are now, and from ages 35 to 45 is where we are perimenopausal. Mm-hmm. And so many things come along with that, things that our mothers, aunties, grandmothers never really discussed with us. And as I have started my own journey through this, one day I said to myself, you know what, everybody that I see that's between 35 and 45, we need to have this conversation. And I was just amazed at how many people felt like they were going crazy or some things were not right because they were going through these symptoms that they didn't even realize were natural.
So, we don't know what's going on with our bodies half the time. We're coming and going, we're hot. Why am I hot? I'm sweatier. Like yesterday, I thought about this conversation because yesterday I was doing an interview for my column. We were at me and the photographer at the house. I think I had my first legit flash. We'll talk about this during my appointment. But I was like, I am so hot. It felt like a panic attack. And I was like, what is happening?
That way.
And you may not get them everywhere. I get them.
Yes.
I get
my
underarms
was wet, and it was very quick. I was like, something is happening. And I was trying to get out the door. I couldn't get out of her door. We have old houses, so I was trying to get out the door. I was panicked. I was like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. Is that a panic? Is that a flash?
Yeah, that's part of all that comes along with menopause. And to your point about you had them up under your neck, I have women who come in and say at nighttime my feet get hot and they have to stick their foot outside the covers, and then once they cool off or the foot cools off, then that just does it, and then they are able to go back to sleep. But just to go back to what does it mean to be perimenopausal? And so this is not necessarily scientific. This is just more kind of like an observation that I've made in the 20 years I've been doing this. But the first sign of being perimenopausal really is something very simple, having dry eyes. And for those who have worn contact lenses, like myself, I started wearing contacts when I was 11 years old. I actually wore gas perms. And when I got to be about 35, 36, I couldn't wear them like all day, all night like I used to. I had to come home and take them out. And I was seeing the same person saw my eyes from the time I started wearing glasses at age 6 till I was 35, and I got mad because I'm like, okay, now you're switching me to soft lenses and I can't see and all this. So I went to see a Black female optometrist, and she was like, oh yeah, this is the beginning of menopause. I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
She was like, yes, because as you begin to lose estrogen or you're not making as much, the mucosal surfaces are going to start getting dry. Which we'll talk about that, along the way. But that, all the surfaces, dry eyes, dry mouth, dry tootie, all of that happens because the amount of estrogen is beginning to go down.
Wow.
Then, No, don't be, because these are things we can work through. So then I say, when we're having this conversation in the office, then I'll say, well, then around 40, 41, you start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm pre-Alzheimer's, because you find yourself forgetting more. You know, how you walk into a room
Hallelujah.
and you're like, what did I come in here for? And then you have to walk out and retrace your steps.
Yes.
And it never fails. As soon as you walk out of that door, it hits you what you were coming into a particular room for, or whatever. So
we're not going senile early?
No, you're not going senile early.
And what about sleep? And I know that was a
insomnia.
Thing for me. I slept more, but I also had insomnia.
Yes, that also comes along with all of this. Is all linked to you not making as much estrogen as you made when you were younger. So absolutely, you'll start experiencing the forgetfulness, and the insomnia usually starts about this time. And then there comes my favorite, which is where I am when you're, in the mid 40s to late 40s, irritability and emotional lability. I have always prided myself. I get along with everybody. I would always suppress my feelings so that I wouldn't hurt anybody else's feelings. But now I can go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds.
Oh,
and sometimes, and sometimes it's just about
nobody can see us, but we're all nodding. We're like, yup.
I mean, and I'm like, what happened? And my husband's like, how long are you gonna be like this? And I'm like, I don't know, because you don't know how long you're gonna be. But I just thought it was interesting that my mood changed like that, and little things that I was able to just let go would bother me.
You cannot let it go.
Yes,
you're right.
Lord. And so let me bring this up. There's one thing that she said and one thing that I saw, and I keep this handy just because it was a meme that was like, are you in a bad mood? Yes, no, bitch, I might be. And bitch, I might be is checked off on the bottom. I was like, that's exactly right. But I told her, I started going to her, gosh, my baby was a baby. So it's been a while now. And I went in there, I said, so I'm concerned. I don't like people anymore. I used to like people. I don't like people. Is there something wrong with me? And so what she said to me is like, that's that 40. I was like, for real? Like, is this normal? I don't like people. I just felt like my tolerance for people and fuckery and bullshit just kept going down. And she's like, nah, that's that 40. I was like, damn.
Yep.
I mean, there's a freedom in that, though. There's a liberation.
There is a lot of freedom in that. I totally agree with that. And, I make a joke about this too. Now I understand why, how your grandmother or your mother used to say, you're getting too stout, you're dressed too short, you're too fast, blah, blah, blah. And they just say all these things to you with no filter, which we're all always trying to be politically correct. But when you get to this point in your life, you just don't have time to be sugarcoating stuff and petting somebody's feelings up, because, you're not trying to be malicious. You're just telling them what you know is right. Now, they're not going to like it, but it's going to make you feel better. And that's all part of that being menopausal. Like, I just don't have time to waste, and it's making me irritated. So I'm just going to say it, get off my chest, and be through with it. And I laugh about it now, because now I can see clearly why they would do some of the things they do and say some of the things they would say.
Yeah, like my mom calling me at work saying I moved her mail. This is during the days of pages. Harass me, beep, 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 beep. I call home thinking it's an emergency. Well, who told you to move my mail? You don't live here. You didn't. Went off.
Ooh.
Found out the next day. She never apologized nor said anything. She had moved it and it was in her purse. But went the hell off. She said, I moved an envelope. And then a few years after that, she was calm. I'm like, she's a different person. And somebody said, oh, girl, your mom was going through the change. Because that's what she called it, the change.
And the interesting thing is they don't tell you. It's not, and they don't tell you shit.
They don't tell you anything.
Because I would have liked to know about surgical, like if you've had a hysterectomy and you immediately go into menopause. I've had family members that went through that, but nobody discussed it. That would have been something important for me to know and talk about. Fortunately, I had some family members that told me, don't worry about your sex drive, because if it's family related, you won't have a problem there. Because they do. But they don't talk about if you don't use it, over time, it can be very painful with having sex. And could you talk more about that?
Yes, so that goes back to what we were talking about, the dry eyes, and so the dry tootie. Yeah, so you'll have vaginal dryness because there's the lack of estrogen. And so because there's no moistness, this is why your mom used to have the KY jelly hidden in the back of the closet, the closet, because they needed it because they were starting to have vaginal dryness and sex was not as comfortable as it had been before. Now, a lot of women though that I've talked to, I don't hear that complaint as much, but that's the reason why they have that uncomfortable sex. We were talking about the insomnia and the forgetfulness and all of that. Lack of sleep is so underestimated. We are so on go 24/7. And lack of sleep is causing more problems than none. So that goes back to the emotional lability and the going from 0 to 102 seconds. It affects us in the fact that it causes us to not be able to lose weight the way we're supposed to. It affects your memory. So, for all these things that we're talking about, and, my other saying all the time is a pill can't fix everything. And it can't. We really need to step back and see, well, what else is going on in this situation that can help us get through what we're going through. So,
and she's very good about not pushing pills too. I mean, that's important to talk to your doctor about alternatives, particularly if you're not about that pill life. Like if you're not trying to be pilled up all the time. So that's another thing that's important to me. And if that's important to you, you definitely need to be advocate for yourself and push that with your doctor.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
My doctor does a little bit of both. Natural and prescription. And thank goodness she gave me my estrogen, because I didn't realize, after my hysterectomy, that she gave me my prescription ahead of my hysterectomy for a reason. And I clearly wasn't paying attention until I went about 3 or 4 days without any sleep whatsoever. Right. And it was because my estrogen, of course, had dropped so low that I couldn't sleep. I was up literally for 3 days praying that I could go to sleep, and nothing worked. Yeah. And you don't realize how important, and I probably take the lowest dose they prescribe, but that little small dose worked miracles for me, and also keeps my hair on my head, because without it, I noticed my hair will start falling out. And I lost a lot of hair after that. I get normal shedding from anesthesia, but I had just huge amounts of hair fall out. And I just felt for other women, fortunately, I had thick hair, but what about women who don't, the loss of all your hair all of a sudden. And it was literally from having that hysterectomy and that estrogen. But for hot flashes and things like that, are there natural things you recommend
Absolutely.
To use to help?
Absolutely. So the two big main ones are black cohosh, which is a little pill that and it's a herb and you can get it over the counter, and soy in a lot of different forms, soybeans, soy burgers, soy milk. And there are some vitamins out. Go ahead.
People tell you not to do soy because of the estrogen. Oh, right. Okay. Now I'm tracking. All right. Go on.
Yes. So well, we use soy because soy has
right.
Yeah, because soy has plant-like estrogen, so it's not the same as exogenous medicinal estrogen, but it mimics the estrogen that your body makes. So that's a way to replenish the estrogen in your body by using soy products. And they do make some vitamins out there at GNC and other places that you can go to those vitamin stores online that will have soy in it.
Okay. And you guys will post that too, like some natural remedies and stuff for that. And Casey, you've been quiet, girl. What's up?
Because I'm listening, because it's like I'm identifying with what she's talking about. You know, I had an ablation in 2009. Mm-hmm. And after that is when like half of my hair fell out. Mm-hmm. And I was just trying to go through and figure things out on my own. I didn't have access to information. And by then I was retired, and getting medical care as a retiree is not the same as if I was still on active duty. And I just didn't have the tools. I didn't have the language, you know, so I was just suffering and figuring things out on my own. And then I had a hysterectomy several years later. And then that started all over again with the shedding and the hot flashes and the mood swings. And it took years for all of that to even out. Even though I have the one ovary, there's still a significant change, you know, between pre and post.
Absolutely.
And so it's like a lot of it, I'm just trying to soak it up. I'm trying to make notes.
I saw her writing. I was like, what did you write?
I've been writing over here too, because I needed some more tips.
And please text me those things so I can hold on to it, and I'll make sure we post it on our Instagram. So before we wrap up though, I want to talk about just those boxes again. Like perimenopause is like roughly 35 to 40
to 45 or 5-ish or so.
And then premenopause.
Let me say this. Premenopause is roughly 10 years prior to you actually going through the change. Now that's pulling out a surgical menopause when you've had the hysterectomy, as the two young ladies have already said. But perimenopausal usually is really the 4 to 5 years is right before you actually go through menopause. And really the definition for that is you go 12 calendar months without a period. That is it.
I can't wait.
So, you know, and that's just the body's way of acknowledging that, hey, you are no longer able to be childbearing. And that's all it really is. I mean, now you hear all these stories about women who, even though they were artificially inseminated, but they were still, you know, able to carry their daughter's baby the daughter couldn't have a baby, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, you hear those stories, then you hear women. I mean, I have people in the practice who still having a full cycle and they're 58. So there's no rhyme or reason to these things. Right. I mean, I have had some who've gone through menopause super early, like 38, 40, without having gone surgically. Surgically that's a whole different ballgame. But to naturally just stop having a cycle that early, we always are taught to have your patient to talk to people in the family, their mom, their sister, their aunts, just to see, roughly how old were you when you started having these symptoms, And
was it because we have such issues with fibroids and stuff? Was it because of a hysterectomy? Yeah. So, I would like to also point out too, we do have to close, but I do like to point out that, our parents are a whole different generation than us. One, they just are withholding in terms of information, but they felt like, I feel like a lot of that generation before us felt like they were less of a one, like menopause was so, oh God, it's the beginning of the end. I'm like, my womanhood is whatever. And I was like,
instead of being celebrated,
bitch, right. Bring it. I'm so tired of Flo. We have a whole text group, me and my homegirls complaining every single fucking month. Every month. We're like, sick of this bitch. Every day. I mean, every month like clockwork. Sick of this bitch. Sick of her. So, there's no shame in menopause, y'all. Like, I mean, just really embrace it and roll with it. And there's, so many ways to balance yourself out. It is not the beginning of the end. I mean, I would feel very
question.
free if I didn't have to have a period.
Can we ask one more quick question?
Yes.
Just how long does menopause last?
It usually lasts about 4 or 5 years, but for every woman, it's different. I mean, but that's a generality. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And is it different if you've had a hysterectomy, like a full hysterectomy? Yes. How long menopause will last?
So with the hysterectomy, if they left your ovaries, usually you'll have those symptoms at the appropriate time. So let's say, for example, if you had a hysterectomy at like 38 or 40 because of the fibroids, because we see that quite often. And if they left your ovaries, because the ovaries are still able to produce that estrogen. But again, now you're in that age group where your estrogen levels are going to start, going down physiologically. That was going to happen. So it'll be probably about the same time frame in that 45, 46-ish range. And that could last up until 52, 53 or so.
Okay. What if you don't have any ovaries?
Well, then you from the get-go, that's why.
Right. You're automatically in menopause.
You're totally in menopause, yes.
And then how long does that last?
Again, there's no time frame on it either. You have to talk to somebody in your family to see how long
I'm ready to know. They all had an ovary left, but me, I guess. So,
but you, okay, yeah.
I guess I'll just have to grin and bear it and find out.
But if you don't have ovaries left, you would be going through it right now, right? But
yeah, I'm going through it. I want to know when it's going to end.
Oh yeah, because I had hysterectomy, but
you immediately start as soon as you come out from the anesthesia,
from the surgery.
Yeah. Right. And so that's why
did you have something else to say?
No, I've just been listening and learning because I've kind of because I had a hysterectomy early, right? Mm-hmm. I was probably 30, maybe 33, 34, something like that. Yeah. And so I kind of knew, my doctor told me kind of what the deal would be. Mm-hmm. What I always am marveling at again, right, is that it's just not something that we talk about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Again, like among the many things that our mothers don't share with us, that our aunts don't talk to us
so many things
about our bodies, about
I want to just interject one thing, going back to the mental piece, because that's something else in the Black community. We don't really want to talk about our mental stability and our mental health. I've had a lot of women who have come in with that whole, going from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, and then days they want to cry but don't know why they want to cry, but they just feel like I need to get something out and all of that. Mm-hmm. And so back to my whole philosophy of a pill can't fix everything. I think if having these conversations with the women in this age group, as long as you know what's going on, I think that without a pill, you can figure out how to manage yourself better. And I am a believer of mind, body, and spirit. The three things work together. I cannot talk to a patient without addressing all three. And it's not about the spirituality. It's not about your doctrine and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, do you have time? Do you meditate? Do you do self-care? Do you have someone that you can talk to? In addition to you seeing me, and we're, helping you to manage your health. But all of those things play a role together. And I just think it's important that as women, we need to make sure before we go jumping off the deep end saying, I need a pill for this and a pill for that, you and your provider need to be able to sit down and kind of ask a few more questions, or the provider should ask you a few more questions before they go just, throwing medicine in the mix.
Right. And if you have another doctor, make sure they work together, because my psychiatrist and
absolutely.
My gynecologist work together.
PCP. Okay.
With my, when I had my hysterectomy, and what worked for me, I have anxiety medicine, but normally they tell you don't take medicine before your surgery. She told me, no, take your anxiety medicine.
That's right.
And that actually helped my mood significantly.
Absolutely.
And people were saying, actually, I was nicer after I had my hysterectomy with menopause. Therefore, all my friends have said I'm the nicest person in menopause that they've ever seen. And maybe I should have had it earlier, because they were saying how much nicer I am. But that medicine helped me, because anxiety also works for your mood. So medicine works for your mood.
Absolutely.
But the people in the hospital said I acted better and was different than some of the other ladies on the floor. But it works. So don't be afraid to see a psychiatrist and get help as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
So Dr. Angela Watson, my doc, my Sora in her pretty African violet purple. But really, she isn't pretty African violet purple.
She is. We're all pretty.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Watson.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I enjoyed this.
We have to have this conversation. You don't know how helpful this has been for us and how helpful it will be for so many women to hear this and to know, you're not crazy. It's part of your body changing.
And you're not alone, ladies.
And you're definitely not alone.
You're not crazy. Thank you to my 3BCs, One Solo, Casey the Alchemist, and Chloe. Thank you again to my Dr. Masara, Dr. Angela Watson. Y'all can check her out. She's in Memphis, 1407 Union. The professional building. I mean, good luck getting an appointment, but go on, give it a shot. And they'll work with you. They'll work with you. But this has been 3BC.
You're good.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
3BC, powered by the Kudzukian Network, empowered by the Kudzukian Network. This is your girl, Joy. Thanks for listening, and happy summer, y'all.
3BC, recorded at Kudzukian Studios. Directed, produced, and distributed by Kudzukian.
Join the conversation at facebook.com/3BC.